everyone, this is Casual Fanatic.
Film reviews without the shoes.
I'm Luca, your casual viewer.
And I'm Cayman, your fanatic. How's it going?
How's it going? It's going. If it sounds weird, my nose is a bit stuffed. I'm getting over a cold today. I'm feeling a lot better, but that's what's been going on. What'd you say?
I said you sound pretty good.
Do I really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have maybe it's just me. I can hear it, at least from my perspective. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a little bit, but it's not that bad.
No, it's not terrible. Like if I talk without using my nose, it's fine. But with some words, I have to use my nose, and it doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I came back from a week in North Carolina hanging out with Cameron. And then before that was Christmas, where my family and my girlfriend Sydney and I were in Keystone. We were all skiing. And then literally right after that is when I went for a week to North Carolina to hang out with Cameron.
Been off for the holidays, but we're back now.
Yep, back in full swing. What about you, Cayman? Tell us about your break.
Well, I have also been dealing with some sickness. The week before Christmas, Elena had COVID, and then she got over that pretty quickly. It wasn't too terrible. And then Christmas Eve, actually, I started having the weirdest symptoms. I was throwing up, and I had super itchy rashes just appearing in random spots all over my body.
Oh,
not very fun. So I went to the doctor a couple times. Still don't know what caused it. I mean, if we did a bunch of expensive tests, I probably could have figured it out, but the doctor was like, I'm going to prescribe you some drugs and they should help whatever it is. So
yeah,
just been taking those, and I've been feeling pretty good since the drug started, but I'm on my last dose today. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. If the symptoms start coming back, then I'm going to be very upset.
Then you have to dish out some money, I guess.
Damn,
that's crazy.
Yeah. And then for New Year's, we hung out at Melanie's house, did some fireworks, had a bunch of fun over there. And then the day, not the day after, because that was New Year's Eve. 2 days after that, this past Monday, we went on a hike to Mount Magazine, which is the tallest mountain in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. And I proposed to Elena there.
Would you look at that? At the top of the mountain?
And then promptly after that, it started pouring rain, and there was a tornado warning, and we barely made it home. So
wait, what?
That was exciting.
Wow, that's crazy. But congrats on the podcast now for getting engaged.
Thank you.
Super pumped for you guys. Super happy. She said yes, right? Just to make sure.
No, she actually, we're broken up, so.
Oh, unlucky. No, she said yes for sure. Viewers, listeners. Damn, that's awesome. Yeah, so a lot happened for us over the break, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Everyone was fucking sick, and then, you got engaged. I went on a big old trip. Yeah, dude. And you've started work already, right?
Well, I didn't even have a proper break for work. I had the Monday after Christmas I had off, and then the Monday after New Year's I had off. But I've been working every other day except those.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You guys you didn't use any vacation or what?
Well, I've been using a lot of my PTO earlier in the year. I think I only have 3 days left. So I could have added some PTO to my holiday, but I'm trying to, because it doesn't renew until June. So yeah, I'm trying to save it in case I need it for something else.
How many days PTO do you get?
I think I had 120 hours this year.
Is that accrued, or is that you get it a flat rate and then you use it whenever you want?
Yeah, you get a set amount at your, because it renews on your work anniversary. So the day that I started working, a year from that date is when my PTO renews, and the PTO doesn't roll over. So I can't save it. If I don't use it by the time it renews, it just goes away.
Gotcha. Damn, awesome. Well, oh yeah, my first starting date is the 10th. So in 2 days is my first day at the new firm,
That's nice.
which is
I
pretty
hope this
exciting.
one works out better for you.
Yeah. So it's funny because the last day at my last firm, one of the people that have been there, one of the 4 guys came to me. He was like, "Hey man, can I talk to you real quick?" And I like, "Sure." And so I went and talked to him. Bro, he's also quitting.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just me, and he's quitting for the same reasons. So I'm not going crazy, you know? Always a good thing to know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really hope you enjoy, your new job and the new people you're working with.
Yeah,
I
man,
think
me
it's,
too.
yeah.
Me too. I'm a little bit nervous because, I don't want it to go south again. But as of what I've heard from this new place, it'll be pretty awesome. So
That's good. That's good.
fingers crossed. Yeah. But besides all these fun things that we're doing, what movie are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to be talking about a 2022 film, Glass Onion, subtitle A Knives Out Mystery.
Okay. And this is like a sequel of the last movie that we reviewed, or
Yeah,
how does that work?
I don't even know if sequel is a good way to describe it because it doesn't have anything to do with Knives Out. It just the
Yeah,
detective is the same character. So
that's true.
it's just like another adventure for Benoit Blanc, but none of the characters from the first movie are in this one, and the story doesn't affect it in any way.
Right. Damn. Well, what did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good. I think I definitely liked the first one better. But this one was fun and it was different. It definitely, I feel like it can be very easy to sort of fall into the same routine with mysteries where you're just like, someone dies, there's a bunch of little clues and they figure out who the killer is. But both Knives Out and this movie, I think, do a very good job of telling a story in a unexpected way. With Knives Out, there was obviously like the whole thing where they tell you who the murderer is up front and then it like changes, and there's like the thing with the whole donut within a donut speech where there's like a crime hidden inside of another crime.
Yeah.
And there is a similar sort of thing happening with Glass Onion. And I would say the idea of a glass onion in this movie is sort of the counterpoint to the donut with a donut within a donut from the first movie.
Yeah. It's like the new theme of like the whole setting of the movie,
Yeah.
of like a glass onion is basically see-through. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you on those points. I think that I do agree the first movie was better. I think the first one really just kept my attention better than this movie. This one, there was a lot of talking and a lot of drama. And if you're into that kind of thing, maybe like it'll suck you in more, but I'm not like really a fan of it. It was more trying to figure out the drama between each one of them.
Yeah.
And
I
then
also
from
just
there,
I felt like there's also an amazing cast in this movie. We have
oh yeah, absolutely.
obviously Daniel Craig is back. We have Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Leslie Odom Jr., Jessica Hennick, all sorts of people, and they all do a good job. And I think their characters are interesting, but I think they don't have the same depth as the characters in the first movie. I feel like in Knives Out, every single one of the family members had like a secret that they were holding on to, and you could really see the way that they think about each other, and they have interactions where you learn their personality more. And I feel like the characters in this movie are almost like caricatures. Like they're very over the top, and they're each like I don't know, they extend almost to cartoonish levels of ridiculousness at times.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, the depth just isn't there. The character development, I mean, their character is kind of set from the get-go.
Yeah.
The movie definitely focused more on, I don't really know what else it focused on because it didn't develop them. I guess it developed the story a lot more than it did the characters this time around.
Yeah. And I think part of that is, and we'll talk about this, but this movie is very so a major theme in I don't think this is really a spoiler, but this theme plays a lot with the motif of a fugue, which we learned early on in the movie is a piece of music that uses one melody and then layers the melody on top of itself to create more intricate sort of interplay between the notes in the song.
Right.
And this movie kind of is a fugue in and of itself, where the movie plays through a certain set of events and then goes back and like runs through them again from a different perspective. And so you like the movie is layering on top of itself to sort of give you more information.
Yeah. And it also changes depending on like the perspective that we're given or told.
Right.
I think that's what you're going for. Just said it in a different way. Let's see.
But yeah, I think it's still a good movie. It almost, I think I enjoyed it probably more the second time I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I feel like the first time I watched it, I was a little disappointed, maybe because I was expecting more, but also the movie is kind of purposely doing that, where it wants you to expect more than
Really?
it's
What do you
giving
mean by
you.
that?
Well, we'll come back to this point when we get into spoilers, but I think this movie is purposefully portrays itself as being more complex than it is.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. I think I can see that, but like you said, we'll get into it. Yeah. I think that overall it was a good watch for me. Like you said, for me, the second time around watching it, it was a lot more interesting. Granted, the first time I think I fell asleep for like the back end of the movie. Just because I think I was tired. but yeah, I think it's a great watch. It's, there's nothing, crazy going on in it that we have to warn you about. It's pretty kid friendly. But yeah, I think if you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely watch it.
Yeah. With that said, let us take a moment and step into the boxing ring. It has been a while. I don't remember who went first last time. I always feel weird after breaks because I'm sure this is obvious to our audience at this point, but we do record ahead of time. So
I went first last time. I wrote it down.
We just got back off a holiday break, but by the time this episode comes out, it'll be almost February.
Yeah. But I wrote down I went first last time. So
yeah.
So you if you want to go for it.
All right. I am going to say, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to say in the thrilling follow-up to Knives Out, famed detective Benoit Blanc travels to a secluded island in Greece to solve another mystery.
That was it?
That's it.
All right. Yeah, I think with the movie, you're right. Like this one, I feel like they're going to keep it simple just because honestly, the plot of the whole movie is a bit simple, but that's all right. Let's see here. In May of 2020, Benoit Blanc, the world's best detective, is dying of boredom and is surprisingly invited to an island named Pisachet to solve a mystery of Miles's quote unquote death, as the invitation said. All right. I think that was it for me.
Nice. I think the dock is a piece of shit, not the whole island.
Yeah, but either way, I think is the island not called Piece of Shit?
No.
There's the dock, piece of shit.
Yeah, because it's a shitty dock.
Yeah. Low tide, high tide matters a lot there. Alrighty.
Okay. It says here, world famous detective Benoit Blanc heads to Greece to peel back the layers of a mystery surrounding a tech billionaire and his eclectic crew of friends.
Okay. You said Greece. It said Greece. Did you say world famed detective, or did you just say?
I didn't say world, but I said famed detective.
Okay, I said world famous detective. I think something around those lines. Did you ever mention Miles?
I didn't.
I mean, I didn't say billionaire. I just said his name, Miles.
That's true. This doesn't have his name in it, but it does like reference him, I guess.
And I don't think either of us mentioned the crew.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. This is a tough one.
It is.
This is why we need a third person. It's like hard to judge it when you're part of it.
Yeah. Well, I would say a tie.
Yeah, all right. I'm fine with that. We'll
Up
we'll
to
leave this
you.
one
I
as a
mean,
tie.
yeah. I
If
mean,
the-
granted, I guess I did spill more beans about the movie than you did, but it is what it is. Alrighty, well,
yeah. Oh, also before we continue, I would like to mention this is a Netflix movie, but it did have a limited release in theaters. I think it was only in theaters for like 7 days.
oh wow.
But it had an estimated budget of $40 million, and off of that 7-day theatrical window, it made about 13 million. But so obviously it didn't make a whole lot of money in theaters, but also it wasn't in theaters that long, and also it wasn't meant to make money off of its theater sales. It was more just a promotional thing so that people would watch it on Netflix. And as
Interesting.
we've discussed previously, it's very complicated and very hush-hush about how streaming services rank how much money they make on movies, because it has a lot to do with like how many new subscribers they get versus like how it's a whole list of things, and none of the streaming services are very upfront with how they calculate those numbers.
But quite honestly, like 40 million budget for this movie, that's a lot less than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's like really, really cheap. Oh wow. I mean, I'm sure they made more than 40 million
Yeah,
from Netflix alone. I mean, has to have.
but let's take a quick break and then we will come back for spoilers.
Let's do this.
And we're back.
And we're back. All right. Well, it is spoiler time. So here we go.
This is the spoiler section. If you don't want the movie spoiled, don't listen.
All right. And now everyone knows that if they don't want to have the movie spoiled, to not listen. There we go.
Indeed.
Okay. So I think it's interesting that this movie basically takes place, almost basically takes place on the island in Greece.
Yeah, there's, I think, like maybe 20 or 30 minutes before they get to the island, and then the rest of it is on the island.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes sense. I think it, because I mean, just like the first movie, 90% of that film takes place at the house. There is a little bit at different locations, but not a lot. And I think mysteries work really well when they're single location mysteries. I feel like that makes it feel more secluded, and you get more time with each of the characters versus when people are off running to different places all the time and you have to like follow them around.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And that also helps like the budget a crazy amount, obviously, because you're not really, I mean, you're traveling to Greece, but
Yeah.
other than that, there's not really much to do. I also did think it was interesting that the movie started off, granted it did say May 13th, 2020, but that they were all wearing masks.
Yeah. This film takes place like peak pandemic.
Yeah.
And the director, Ryan Johnson, did an interview on, I want to say Vanity Fair, but I may be misremembering that. But on YouTube, he did an interview where he highlighted the scene on the dock where they all show up, and how the masks that each of them are wearing are sort of revealing of each of their personalities, and how like Benoit Blanc has a nice fabric mask that matches the rest of his outfit, and Lionel, who is a scientist, has like a proper N95 mask, and
Right.
then Claire is a politician, so she is more concerned with her appearance, and so she wears a mask, but it like falls off of her nose a lot, and so you can see her like constantly having to readjust it. And Birdie, who obviously doesn't really care about anything, has the mesh mask. And then Duke and Whiskey, who you can see during their scene where they're talking about like I think he calls it the breastification of America, and they're like talking about like sorry feminists. And so they're the kind of people that would like probably not either not believe that the virus is real or not believe that it's dangerous. And so neither of them are wearing masks at all.
Yeah, they're not wearing masks, and they're like, they came shooting a gun in the air just because.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the out of left field people.
And so you sort of like, you learn little bits about the characters, even just based off of the kind of masks that they wear.
That's really cool. I didn't notice that, but I mean, it makes total sense. Yeah. I also think it was interesting, like that before they went on the boat, and I still don't exactly know what it is or what it was. And Benoit Blanc, he asked about it. Is that like them getting shot in the mouth by this tranquilizer gun / I don't even know what it was shooting, but
yeah, I think that was just meant to be like I mean, obviously as like a storytelling technique, you need to have some sort of way for them to not be wearing masks the entire movie.
Right.
But then also it's kind of funny because like the idea out there of like, oh, well, if you have enough money, like rich people have the kind of technology where they could just instantly stop themselves from getting sick and just like shoot something in your mouth and like, yeah, you're good. You don't need the mask anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it made sense to me. Like I didn't question it one bit. I just wish they would have answered, you know. I was on Benoit Blanc's team. I was like, well, what's in it? Why is it doing that? Like, why? And then he didn't really answer. He was just like, lower the mask. And he's like, okay. But yeah, I think that intro was really good. I mean, not just that's just getting onto the island, right? This hasn't even like started. We haven't even started talking about the mystery boxes that they were sent, which I thought was super cool. This weird, you know, box that's equilaterally basically the same on every side.
Yeah.
And then they have to figure out how to open it and continue opening it because there's, you know, puzzles in there and whatnot. I think that's a great way for this movie to start off and really show each character. That's where we learn about each character, basically. That's the character development. It's in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because you see them all at different locations. And like I said, Duke is streaming online, talking. I think he's like talking about something that happened with Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. And then Birdie is having a huge party. Claire was like finishing up a TV appearance, and
the scientist guy.
Yeah, Lionel was like talking to some other people about one of Miles's projects.
Yeah, he was talking to basically the scientific. He was in a laboratory, and he was on Skype with some other technicians and whatever, and they were basically telling him that they can't follow every idea that Miles has because they're just crazy ideas that he's faxed in. And that's also where we learned about, you know, Miles and his faxing, his just random ass ideas, hoping that one of them will hit, kind of thing.
And that's where they discuss the fine line between genius and insanity, because he sends random like 3-word messages. And Lionel points out, like, he sent a fax one time that said child equals NFT ? And then they turned that into some multi-million-dollar product, and that paid for the whole laboratory.
Yeah. But quite honestly, like, when I was watching that scene, I the thought came to mind of like, well, if you're just sending like random ass ideas that you have over to someone, you know, or to people of mass intelligence, of course they could potentially do something with it.
Yeah.
So I started also already at the forefront to get an idea of like, maybe this guy is playing the game, but at this point we don't know anything.
And so a quick note also about the weird mouth vaccine shot thing. Get a cameo from Ethan Hawke, who the first time I watched it, I assumed that he would just be in the movie, and I was like, oh, this is cool, but then he never shows up again after that scene. And there are actually a lot of fun cameos in this movie. Yeah. I know Yo-Yo Ma, who is a famous cellist, shows up at Birdie's party.
Yeah. When they try to figure out one of the puzzles.
Yeah, he's the one that explains what a fugue is.
Yeah.
And then we see
actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We see Benoit Blanc is playing Among Us with some famous people, including Stephen Sondheim, who is a famous, he writes musicals. He did West Side Story, Into the Woods. He's a very, very popular musical writer. Angela Lansbury, who is obviously, she was the lead role in Murder, She Wrote, which was a famous television show. Natasha Lyonne, who is actually the, like, I mean, I don't want to say she's not famous, but she's definitely the least famous person out of the four people that he was playing with. But she is in a show called Russian Doll. She was in Orange is the New Black.
That's where she got famous from, you right?
Yeah.
Orange is the New Black, yeah.
And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was obviously a famous basketball player, but now he's really into writing and activism and that sort of thing.
Yeah. However, from that group, unfortunately, Sondheim and Lansbury, they both passed away prior to The Glass Onion being released.
That is true.
Yeah.
We later get a cameo from Hugh Grant, who plays Benoit Blanc's partner. And then...
I didn't know that. No way. Really?
Yeah, he's the one who answers the door.
Oh, that's cool.
And then Serena Williams shows up as
that was funny.
She's like on a screen, and it's funny because it looks like it's just a photo, and then she like starts moving, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Are you guys gonna use me today or what? Like I'm on the clock."
Yeah, but there's a lot of cameos in this movie, and it's really entertaining every time someone shows up, and you're like, oh, famous people.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess back to the intro, another thing, going back to my discussion about how the movie itself is kind of a fugue. I checked the time, and the movie, when it layers on top of itself, it is exactly half of the movie. So the movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes, and at 1 hour and 10 minutes is when it cuts to the Helen perspective.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Quite honestly, like I knew at one point the movie layered, but I didn't know when that was.
And both times it starts with, you can hear obviously a musical fugue happening in the background in the intro of both halves of the movie. And also both halves start with someone knocking on a door. The first half is a delivery person knocking on Claire's door to give her the box. I believe Claire's the first person that we see. And then the second half is Helen knocking on Benoit Blanc's door.
Wow, that sounds like super intentional then.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you think that the two halves were colored differently, or do you just think because it started from a different perspective, that was the change or the layering?
I think it is just, it's telling the same story from a different perspective. The first half is really more from Benoit Blanc's perspective, and we see him in the bathtub and then going to the island, and we follow all of his actions. And then the second time around, we're seeing it from Helen's perspective, her getting the box and then going to Benoit, and then we watch her like run around and all of the stuff that she's doing that we didn't see the first time.
Right. Yeah. And it kind of painted in some of the parts that were missing during that first half, because at one point we saw her like stumbling, and we were like, well, the characters were like, well, something's up with her basically. And I was like, this is kind of fishy. Like, why is she stumbling? Because at that point we didn't know that, one, she never drank alcohol and she was hammering it.
Yeah. And she was throwing back kombuchas and she didn't know that they were alcoholic.
Yeah. Like that's really funny. But again, like when it went to her view, that was tons of character development for her personally.
Yeah.
I think honestly, she's probably the one character that we got into the most.
For sure. Which makes sense. Yeah. She's like
her and her sister, honestly.
One of the main characters.
Yeah, true.
I do think I will say that this movie is a little strange with how it reveals information, and I haven't decided if I like it or not. I'm more on the positive side, but because obviously the whole point of a mystery story is that you don't have all the information, because if they gave you all the information in the beginning, it wouldn't be much of a mystery.
Yeah.
But usually a mystery story will leave out information related to the mystery. And I feel like this movie gives you all of the mystery information, but then leaves out like side information, which I guess is like technically relevant, but not in the same way. Like the first time we go through, it leaves out part of Whiskey's conversation with Miles Braun. So we see Duke is jogging across the island, and then he sees Whiskey in bed with Miles. And the first time it goes through, we see she's like, "Are you going to do it for me?" And then we don't hear anything else, and you see Duke clench his fist like he's angry.
Right.
And so we assume that he's angry about the affair. But then the second time around, we learn that he sent her to sleep with Miles so that he could get onto Miles's news program. And the reason that he got angry is because he overheard Miles saying no. But the first time we watch it, they leave out the part where Miles says, "No, he can't be on my news program."
Gotcha. So you don't like that delivery of like the split conversations that we are privy to?
Yeah, I think I don't know, it's strange to me to have a scene where it's like and especially from, I guess it makes sense. And that's why I'm like on the fence about it, because the first time the scene happens, like I said, the first half we're listening from Benoit's perspective, and Benoit Blanc was hiding far back behind a bush. So it makes sense that he wouldn't hear the entire conversation. The second half is from Helen's perspective, and we see in that run through that she sneaks up closer so she would hear more of the conversation than Benoit did.
True.
So I'm not upset about it. It just I don't know, it feels a little weird to me, and I can't really pinpoint why.
I mean, they're definitely playing with the viewers. They're 100% playing with the viewers, making them see one side of the coin.
Yeah.
Without like revealing like the whole thing.
Or like you were talking about when after she gets mad at the pool and storms off and Claire follows her, the first time we go through, we just see Claire say something's off, and then you see in the background she like stumbles as she's walking away. And then the second time around, we see that the entire conversation between her and Claire.
Right.
And so, yeah, it makes sense that the situations with Helen would be more in depth when we're going back through it from Helen's perspective. But I don't know. It is a little, I think it's just off-putting because it's so different from the usual. But I don't dislike it. It just is just weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of enjoyed it because, like I said, the first time that I watched it, actually, I think I fell asleep right when let's say the second layering happened, right? So literally I slept through the second layering, and I think I woke up right around the time where things started to go haywire during their dinner. So I actually missed literally the whole second part. And I don't know what I was just like super tired or whatnot. And I guess I didn't really like want to watch a movie at that point because I was so tired.
Yeah.
But watching it the second time, like it was super enjoyable. Like having watched it the first time around without seeing the second portion of it.
Yeah.
And being just like really confused. And then watching it the second time and like everything comes to light. Like it all makes sense with that second half with those little perspective changes. So personally for me, I enjoyed that change just because I think they want to keep you confused and curious in the first half. And then all of a sudden, like all of your questions are being answered.
Well, and that's the other thing is because like I was saying before we got to spoilers about how the movie itself is kind of a glass onion, is because they have all of these different things and like, oh, we're leaving out information here. And there's like things that you don't know until the second half. But none of that stuff is important. It's like it's there to misdirect you.
Right.
But all of the information about the actual murder is just straight up given to you in the first half. If you look closely, you can see Miles ends up murdering Duke, but there's like a lot of the mystery ends up being about who killed Duke and then later about who killed Andy, but we find out that Andy didn't actually die because it was Helen and she got shot in a book, and the real Andy had died previous to the entire island thing. But
Right.
in the first half, before any of that stuff is even called into question, you can see when at the pool when Duke says, "Hey, do you remember that time when you almost pancaked me outside of Andy's house?"
Right.
And Miles tries to cover it up by saying Anderson Cooper, but like you can clearly hear Duke say Andy if you listen closely.
Yeah.
And then when they're at the party and Duke is like, "Hey, my numbers on Twitch are blowing up and hey, you should come look at this." And then you can see on his phone he has pulled up the article revealing that Cassandra is dead. And that's what
Oh,
he
I
was
didn't notice
actually
that.
showing him. And then right after that, you can pretty clearly see Miles take the gun out of Duke's holster and put it in the back of his pants. And then he walks over and you can clearly see the gun in his hand and he dumps it into the icebox. And then he walks over and you can clearly see him give his drink directly to Duke. And then
Yep.
he later pulls his phone out. And we know from previous conversations, Miles doesn't have a phone. He has everything faxed to him. But after Duke dies and Miles is running around, you can see the phone in his back pocket. Like none of that is hidden. And it's all just plain to see right out in front of you. But the way that it's almost like a magic trick. Like you can do a surprising amount of things right in front of someone's eyes. But if you know how to control where that person is looking, they won't see it.
That's absolutely true. The second time I watched it, I made sure to, whenever that drink swap happened, to like really look at what happened in like the real scene versus like the flashback. And like you said, clear as day, Miles literally hands Duke his drink.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I kind of sometimes wonder, like, if you're a real detective and like if you're super keen on, I don't know, like your surroundings and whatnot, like I wonder if those people notice these things that we are just as regular civilians, let's say, missing.
I would assume so. I don't even think it would take an actual detective. I think some people are just maybe happen to look in the right direction at the right time.
Yeah, dude, like imagine though, like imagine having seen all that and you're like the whole movie, you already know what's going on. That'd be hilarious.
And the same thing, like after the lights go out and there's a shot of Miles running through a hallway and it tricks you into looking at a different part of the screen because there's like light. The lighthouse is like strobing through the windows. And so you see Miles like walking down a hallway and then there's a flash of light and we can see Helen hiding behind the corner. And so as an audience, you're like drawn to be like, oh, look, there's Andy or Helen or whoever. I think we don't know it's Helen at that point. So you'd be like, oh, look, there's Andy. But if you don't look at Andy and keep looking at Miles during that moment, you can see that he is holding the gun in the hallway.
Yep.
So then it's not any mystery later when we see someone shoot Andy. You already know that it's Miles.
Right. Yeah. Ah, so good. It's just so good. Like you said, the misdirecting or the directing of eyes, like the directing of attention with lighting and movement and whatnot, or like new people coming in the shot. It's really good in this movie.
Yeah.
That's why like if you watch it twice, definitely you'll spot so many more things that even us watching it twice probably have missed.
And so that's why I was saying like the entire movie is kind of a glass onion, because just like Benoit Blanc is saying about Miles at the end, this whole thing like is set up to feel really complicated, like there's a bunch of layers, but if you're paying attention, you can see straight to the center the whole time.
Right. I mean, it's literally in your face. So
yeah.
Yeah. Damn. We just went through the whole thing. That's crazy. Let's talk about smaller parts. Again, back to the front beginning with like the box, how they all solved it as a team, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I thought it was hilarious how Andy, or her sister technically, just like came back with like a hammer and like these safety goggles on and just smashed it to shit.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. I was like, she's the smartest out of the whole bunch. Like that's the way you should have done it. Honestly, I mean, granted, there could have been a bomb inside or something, but
Yeah,
still.
it's definitely dangerous.
Yeah.
It is like you were saying earlier about how like all of Miles's faxes are just like weird words, and then he sends it to actual smart people to do it for him. He straight up admits several times throughout the movie that he is not the one coming up with any of the ideas, because when Benoit Blanc goes to when he invites him upstairs and he's like, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I got one of your boxes. And he says, yeah, there was some like childish games inside of it. And Miles says that he had someone else design the boxes. So he didn't come up with the boxes himself. And then later after...
Well, he came up with the idea of the boxes. He just gave it, again, like to a smaller guy.
Well, yeah, but he didn't design the box. He just said, I want a puzzle box.
Right.
And then because Miles had set up like a fake murder mystery that he was going to be the one murdered, and Benoit solves it in like 5 seconds. And then Miles gets upset again because he was like, I had, I think he said it was, who was it? Gillian Flynn, who is a popular mystery author. He's like, I had Gillian Flynn write that mystery. And so again, he's saying like, I am not smart enough to come up with this mystery on my own. I hired someone else to do it.
Yeah, basically. And then at one point you find out that even the little part, I mean, Benoit Blanc literally stated it in the movie, but even the little part of like Benoit Blanc coming upstairs after he finished solving the whole killer mystery before it even happened.
Yeah.
Basically told Miles how to do the rest, like how to actually murder and basically stage it.
Yeah.
I just think that was hilarious. Like he's just copy and paste the whole movie.
Yeah, and he says you've basically put a loaded gun on the table and turned the lights out, and then that's exactly what Miles does later.
Yeah, puts a loaded gun on the table and turns the lights out.
And the same exact thing happens at the end when they find the original napkin, and I think it was Lionel was like, why do you still have that? Why didn't you like burn it or something? And you can see immediately Miles pulls out his lighter and then burns the napkin. He's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even notice that part. Oh, that annoyed me so much when he burned the napkin, bro. But granted, like Andy should not have been that fucking close to him with the damn napkin. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like anyone could just snatch that from you or tackle you and then just run away with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will say I do like Edward Norton had a really good performance, I think, as and that's another thing that really helps watching it twice, because the first time you watch it through, when they show up on the island, everyone shows up and Miles is like, oh hey, nice to see you, and then when Andy gets there, he like gives her this sort of face, and the first time you see it, you assume that his reaction is like, oh, I didn't think you'd come because we had a bad falling out. But then the second time you realize his reaction is, how are you here? Because I thought I killed you, kind of.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. I'm glad that we both watched it twice. I had the same realization of like, he's just confused the fact that she's right there in front of him.
Right.
But granted, like I feel like almost all of them gave her that kind of expression.
And I think that's what sets it up, because everyone else is also surprised to see her. So then when Miles is surprised, you just like lump his reaction with everyone else's.
Yeah, but it's like a bit different.
It's a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say honestly that the acting all around was pretty solid. I don't think anyone did a poor performance. Not even fucking Daryl. Like Daryl was pretty funny in this movie, and you saw him only like 4 times.
Yeah. He just pops in and out.
Yeah.
And I think that's another one of those like misdirects where the movie like gives you random information that doesn't really go anywhere. Like Daryl is not important at all. He's just like in 0%. The movie.
Yeah.
Or like the random, I remember the first time I watched it when they have those, the hourly dong. Yeah. And I remember the first time watching it thinking that was going to be like, oh, this is like to set up as a way for us to like recognize, like as a timekeeping device, because in a normal mystery it'd be like, oh, like the clock goes off every hour and that helps you keep track of when certain events are happening. But that isn't even a factor in this movie. It's just
No.
there as a side thing.
It's there definitely as a funny. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only reason that the dong was there. Granted, I think that who did they say the dong was? Recorded
Joseph
by?
Gordon-Levitt.
Right.
Yeah. He was also did a audio cameo in Knives Out as well.
There we go. So those two are tied together, right?
Yeah. In I think it was Marta's sister was listening to like a murder show on an iPad or something, and one of the people on her show was also voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
But yeah, oh, and there's also a similar reaction again at the end when Benoit Blanc tells everyone that he is like, oh yeah, this is Helen Brand, Andy's twin sister. And then you see another reaction, almost as if, and it further solidifies how stupid Miles is, because in the beginning, Benoit tells Helen, as soon as we get there, whoever the killer is immediately going to know who you are and what you're doing. But Miles is so stupid, he didn't think about the fact that Andy had a sister. He just thought that he had failed in his attempted murder and that she somehow survived.
I in that point, like I wonder if Andy had ever told him that she had a sister.
I don't know.
Because at one point, one of them said that like, oh yeah, like I remember you mentioning a sister at one point, but we never met her.
Yeah. But then when she is revealed to be Andy's sister, you see like another realization come to Miles where he's like, oh.
He's like, oh, I didn't fail good. Yeah, he is kind of a dweeb in this movie, but it is what it is.
Yeah. How did you feel about the ending?
I thought it was a poor ending. I really disliked that they burned the Mona Lisa. That just really gave me kind of an annoyance inside, because like, yes, Miles has it, but like that's like a state treasure. That's like a treasure for all of humankind. And just to get back on Miles and burning it.
Elena said the same thing.
Yeah, it was just like distasteful, and it pissed me off, low-key. Like
I think that is the correct reaction, because that the entire end sequence is a direct mirror of exactly what Miles said in his speech about them being disruptors. Back at the pool, he said, if you want to be a disruptor, you start by breaking something small, and you break something that everyone wants to be broken anyway. So then people support you, and you keep breaking things, and you slowly start breaking bigger things. And then eventually you break something that no one wants you to break. And that's when you know you're a true disruptor. And that is exactly what Helen does at the end. She starts breaking those little glass things, and everyone's like, yeah, break the little glass statues. And then she goes over and breaks the big glass piano, and they're like, oh shit. And then she breaks the bar, and then she sets it on fire, and everyone's like, okay, this is going a little far. And then she blows up the entire building and then sets the Mona Lisa on fire. And of course, that is the thing that no one wants you to break. And she breaks it.
Yeah, she just went overboard. And then when it cut to like the exterior where Blanc and I think it was, who was it again? Blanc and Daryl were sitting there in like these lawn chairs. Blanc goes disruption, and then Daryl looks at Blanc and goes fucking A.
Yeah.
Like it literally what you just said, like it was exactly what disruption is, and they literally stated it afterwards again, clear as day. Like, yeah, I don't know.
And I think, I mean, to a point, like, obviously, yes, just like Miles said, like, burning the Mona Lisa is passing that line where you break something that no one wants you to break. But at the same time, she is, like, when you really weigh the odds, she is saving lives by doing that. Because by allowing this house fire to destroy the most famous painting in the world, now the little clear fuel thing, no one's going to support it. And as we learn earlier, it's like very unstable, and it will, like, literally millions of people would die if that became a common fuel in people's houses.
I mean, no, I'm totally there with you, but I honestly, like, I feel like a house blowing up and a ton of Banksy's arts and other art pieces in there is enough.
I don't think it is.
You don't think so?
I think with enough money and resources, he could have lawyered his way out of that.
Maybe, yeah.
but especially because Miles, like, because with everything else you can like kind of put the blame on Helen and be like, she burned down my house, she destroyed all of this art. But the reason the Mona Lisa got destroyed is because Miles breached the security contract with the Mona Lisa and installed the button that can lower the safety glass. So that is his fault.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know, but I feel like he was already beat at the point to where everyone flipped on him and they were all like, well, yeah, actually we did see him have the gun and we did see him with a burn like the original, whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? At that point, he was already beat.
I don't know. I don't think he would have been.
Really?
I think when you get in so much trouble, like you destroy the Mona Lisa, that is the point at which none of those people want to be associated with you anymore.
I mean, yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just some crazy stuff. But quite honestly, also like the tackle that they like slow-mo showed before she hit like the gnome's head to open the Mona Lisa's front was so weak. I don't know, like Miles diving, like
yeah, he like barely tried. He like touched her shoulder.
Yeah, he like touched her like shoulder strap. That was it. And I was like, okay, to protect the Mona Lisa, that's all you did? Like, come on.
Maybe he just had a bad dive. Sometimes you miss.
Not in a situation like that. That's like life or death. And he fucking lost. Like, I don't know.
I will say,
it was a weird ending though, because like it showing that the Mona Lisa burned, although yeah, you're correct, honestly, like that was the nail in the coffin for him, like the final nail.
Yeah.
It just puts a sour taste in anyone's, I hope at least, in everyone that's viewing the movie of like, well, why did you have to go that far?
It worked for me. I think I fully understand that feeling, but I don't know. I guess because I know that that's the feeling they were trying to get out of the audience, it makes me enjoy not wanting it makes me want it to not want to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, of course, like I don't want the Mona Lisa to burn. That would be really sad. But because I don't want it, I want it because that's what I want to not want.
You're addicted to chaos. LOL. Like it made me think of like the Mona Lisa in real life actually burning. You know how tragic that would be?
I mean, yeah, it would be, but also, I don't know. I feel like people put way too much importance on certain objects. I would be sad if the Mona Lisa burned, but it's just a painting. It's not the end of the world. That's
fair. That's fair. Quite honestly, like even if you burn it, it's probably not the real one anyway. You know how governments work. No, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we had the same reaction at the end there. At least Elena and I of being pissed off. Elena's like all upset, and I can see you on the other side of the couch, like, good. Like, the evil came and left.
I was so upset at him burning. I was more upset at him burning the napkin than her burning the Mona Lisa.
Oh, really?
I was like, what a shitty outcome for all of this to happen, and then him to just get away with it, and then her coming back and being like, no, you may have gotten away with the murder, but I'm going to completely destroy your reputation because you are now responsible for the most famous painting in the world being destroyed, and that's on you. And I was like, yeah, that's what he fucking deserves.
I mean, yeah, true. If you put it that way, I guess I took him out of the picture of like, that's just not something you should do. Like, even if it means destroying that person. But granted, like he did kill her sister, so
and
might be thinking differently.
He killed 2 people.
Yeah, his sister and 2 others. True. Well, almost her too. I mean, yeah. If you put it that way, it makes sense. But in honesty, like the napkin burning didn't piss me off just because she was an idiot bringing it that close to him. Like if that's like the final puzzle piece that your sister died because of, and that's the reason that you went there, why are you dangling it in front of his face? Just bad.
Yeah.
But I did like the part where that happened, and then Benoit Blanc was like, well, my job here is done. I can't help you anymore.
I will say, I think the only thing that, like, I guess bothered me is the shield on the Mona Lisa was very inconsistent throughout the movie.
Yes.
Because when they first introduce it, he's like, hey, if you make a noise, the shield goes up, and then I can press this button and make it go back down. But then there are other scenes where like the Duke's phone dings and the shield will go up, and then like 2 seconds later it just drops on its own. And I'm like, is it on a timer? Or like, I don't understand what the up and down mechanism is, because that every single time the phone goes off, the shield goes up, and it becomes this recurring thing.
Yeah,
But
it's
I'm
like an audible cue that they give
right,
you.
but I'm like, who's resetting it every time? Like, there has to be. I guess it can't be permanent where like once the shield goes up, it just stays up. But like, I don't know. I feel like if there was an actual situation where it was in danger, if it just went up for 2 seconds and then immediately dropped again, it's not a very good shield.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, imagine if it was like fucking Daryl in the corner, just like hitting the gnome over and over and over again to drop it.
Yeah.
That
So I
would
don't
be
know.
funny.
I feel like they needed a bit more information on like, other than the weird button that Miles had installed, how would you normally lower the shield? Or does it just eventually lower on its own? Or how does that work?
True. But quite honestly, sometimes it went up, it like, and then goes like almost immediately after.
Yeah.
I mean, it just became, like you said, this repetitive thing of like little things happening, and you kept hearing the fucking thing shut and reopen and shut and reopen. Yeah. I thought it was interesting that when they showed, I mean, I guess the first time that they showed Andy dying or being framed, it had like the whole crew in her house, right? I thought it was interesting that none of them in that scene were wearing gloves. And already at that point, I was like, these guys are just like fucking idiots. Like, there's no way that they're not going to get caught. Because like, even when they put Andy in the car, the person that was in there with her wasn't wearing any gloves. And I was like, they're going to get caught no matter what. But then at the end, you like realize like, oh, like they didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
That was all Miles is doing, which, yeah.
And it does, like, I guess
settled
he
that for me.
also probably didn't wear gloves, but I don't know. I guess that's one of those situations where it was probably just like no one really looked into it too much. Like, you find someone dead from their like filling up their car or filling up their garage with exhaust, and that's like, sadly, that is a very common way for people to kill themselves.
Well, yeah,
And
but it also
so-
said like there were large amounts of like sleeping medication and like in her blood and whatnot.
Right, but if they
I feel
assumed
like-
that she killed herself from the car, then I guess they wouldn't think to check if she has any drugs in her. Or maybe they did see the sleeping drugs and just assumed that she purposely took them.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think unfortunately, the criminal justice system is not perfect, and I can definitely envision a scenario in which they don't discover that Miles did that.
Damn, so you're saying that's like the best way to kill someone?
I mean, I'm not saying it's foolproof. People could discover it, but I also, it's very believable that they wouldn't.
Yeah. Dang. Let's see. I don't know if I have any other notes.
I honestly don't think I do either. I
do want to say though that the gun that shot Andy was like, I think it was a 9mm, and for that little book to stop the bullet, that wouldn't happen. There's no way.
Actually have a piece of trivia about that.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that later then.
Yeah. I mean, if we don't have any other notes, we can get to it now.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect leeway. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's get into trivia. I guess I'll start with that one since that's what we're talking about.
Heck yeah.
Let me find it here. Oh, no, I've lost it. Hold on.
Okay, well, while you're looking for that. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Okay, so it says Duke's pistol appears to be a heavily engraved and regripped Zastava M57, which is a Yugoslavian copy of the Soviet Tokarev T-33, chambered in a 7.62 25mm Tokarev. I don't know what any of those mean because I'm not a gun person, but it does say that this specific gun is a single action, meaning the hammer has to be manually cocked for the first shot and also lacks a manual safety, which makes sense because we see because actually I thought about that during the movie because I was like, it's like such a weird trope in movies for people to like manually pull back the hammer, because most pistols, like when you pull the trigger, the hammer goes back on its own.
Right. Where you cock the whole gun.
Right. But we see in the shot before he shoots Andy how he manually pulls the hammer back, and apparently that is something that you have to do with that gun.
Very cool. But now, I mean, it shouldn't have been stopped by like a little 5mm book though.
So that's the other thing, is because obviously that that book by itself would not have stopped a bullet, but we can see that the window that he shot her through is obviously very strong glass because it doesn't shatter, it just gets a little hole in it. So I think the takeaway would be that the glass itself slowed down the bullet quite a bit. And then because the bullet was going slower, then the book was enough to finally stop it.
Interesting. Yeah, that could totally be. Huh. Very cool. Yeah, that was a lot of gun knowledge that I didn't know of either. So, but with the glass slowing it down, that could totally make sense. Yeah.
Our next piece of trivia is another car reference. You know how we love to talk about cars here. Miles' car is a 2015 Porsche 918 Spyder.
A fast car.
Yeah.
And it's not a one of one. So the movie lied there.
Maybe he had like some custom parts put in or something.
Maybe, yeah. To make it a one of one.
Yeah. In an interview with The Atlantic, director Rian Johnson expressed his frustration over having to add a Knives Out mystery to the film's title for marketing purposes, as he wanted every film to be self-contained except for Daniel Craig's appearance. He said, "Honestly, I'm pissed off that we have a Knives Out mystery in the title. I wanted it to just be called Glass Onion." He said, "I get it. I want everyone who liked the first movie to know that this is the next one in the series, but also the whole appeal to me is that it's like a new novel off the shelf every time."
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Pep Boys. I don't know if you've ever read that series, like kids' books that are blue. And it usually says like Pep Boys Mystery and then like the title.
You mean the
So I
Hardy
totally get-
Boys?
Oh, the Hardy Boys. Oh my God, yes.
It's like Pep Boys is like an auto shop.
True, they're close. Yeah, no, the Hardy Boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Hardy Boys mystery, and then it says like the title usually. So
Yeah, I think, and because I was thinking about this as well, I think I would have been more okay with it if it was like Glass Onion, a Benoit Blanc mystery, because then it's like, then it's actually tied to the character, which is the recurring theme. Benoit Blanc is the only connection between these two movies. So it makes more sense to say a Benoit Blanc mystery, but Benoit Blanc as a character is not as name recognizable as Knives Out. So like I understand why they did it, but also I don't know, I feel like it's kind of stupid to tie every movie in the series to the first movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like to me that would be like if, so obviously you have Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first Indiana Jones movie, and then the second movie was called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You have the character be the connecting point, and to me calling this a Knives Out mystery would be like saying the Temple of Doom, a Raiders of the Lost Ark adventure, and that would be like such a clumsy title.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't want to give Benoit Blanc all that power of like he's like the main thing.
But he is the main thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, not wrong. I don't know. I just think it's interesting because I read for this movie that they actually wanted to give Benoit Blanc a different accent each time they shot a film.
Yeah, that would have been kind of silly. I'm glad they didn't do that.
I'm too. But I mean, if you think about it, would have been kind of interesting. Like every time he comes out with like a different accent. I mean, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of, since we're just now talking about, movie titles and whatnot, there's this other thing that I was like, why is the Glass Onion called the Glass Onion? Just because I was curious. And obviously Johnson wanted the film's title to refer to something hidden in plain sight. Yep. And he chose glass because it's clear. And then he searched his phone apparently for songs with the word in it. And he chose Glass Onion because of the Beatles.
Correct. There is a song by the Beatles called Glass Onion, which is actually about, because back in the day, there were a lot of conspiracy theories about the Beatles and people talking about like their songs having hidden meanings, and there's like all sorts of stuff. And so they wrote a song kind of to make fun of people who think those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so that's what the Glass Onion song is about. Knives Out is also named after a song.
Really? I didn't know that
by Radiohead.
Oh, right. Right. That's funny. Yeah. And because this, I got a fact for you. Because this movie was shot during COVID, apparently, Johnson wanted to do an abroad film, like in Greece, so that they could have like a vacation while filming the movie.
Yeah.
And so the island that they shot this at, they actually found a hotel there where they could like one, it would serve as a filming location, but two, the cast and their families also stayed there while they were filming it to like provide like some summer vacation vibes, which I thought that was pretty dope.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film was the movie was filmed between June and September of 2021.
Yeah. That's smack dab in the middle of COVID. Yeah. I got another one for you if you want to hear it.
Go for it.
Apparently they had a famous painting by Mark Rothko. It's
Yes,
kind of like an abstract artist.
It's called number 207, I believe.
Yeah. And because they wanted to paint Miles as even more of an idiot, in the movie, they actually had it hung upside down.
Yep. I thought about bringing that up, but I also, I'm like not a huge Rothko fan, but I did a little bit of research on him after seeing this movie, and I feel like it's almost, it's almost like a, by not following the rules of the painting, he's following the notion of the artist, because Rothko's whole vibe was kind of like going against the grain. And so that's why a lot of his paintings are just like, I'm going to paint a huge rectangle with two colors on it. Cause he's like, this is just art. As much of being art as anything else. Like, I mean, he's the kind of artist who doesn't follow the rules. And so I feel like if you like told him that you were going to hang one of his paintings upside down, I think by not following the rules, you are more in touch with Rothko's sort of ideology than if you did everything the exact proper way. So it's almost kind of like self-fulfilling in a way.
Yeah, I see that.
But damn. Yeah, it is funny that someone like Miles would not even realize like that. That's the other thing where it's like the line between stupidity and genius, because someone who is trying to be really smart might intentionally hang it upside down to be like, I'm not following the rules. But obviously Miles put it upside down just because he's stupid and doesn't know which way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, you would think if you put millions of dollars in it for a painting, you would know which way to hang it or the way it's supposed to be hung.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of those things.
You got anything else?
I don't know.
Well, I really enjoyed your extra bits of trivia. That was fun.
Heck yeah. I don't know if all the things that I told you've already read or heard of, but I thought those were interesting to bring up.
Well, with that said, I believe it is time to get wrecked.
Oh, let's do it.
Do you have a recommendation for us this week?
Do you? Actually, I mean, I do. So having, gone past the Christmas season and whatnot, and also since since we're German, we usually have, the Haribo gummies, right?
Freaking love those gummy bears.
They're so good, right?
Yeah.
However, I found some gummy bears that I think I almost like more than the Haribo, which they're called Albanese, World's Best.
Well, let me look this up real quick. How do you spell that?
ALBANESE. It's like in a white package, and the ones that I have are like,
I've seen these before.
Bro, they're so good. And they're like super gummy. Like I like the squishy feeling. So if you like the harder kind of gummy bear feeling, then Haribo is probably it for you. But like these, they have 12 different flavors in one of the packages. And I think Haribo is like really good, but this is like a nice refresher of like getting different tastes with like good gummies in your mouth. I don't know.
All right.
So highly recommend those because I've been snacking on them for like the whole break, basically.
Well, my recommendation this week is actually going to be an app that is like, I won't say it's the most entertaining app in the world, but I have been strangely addicted to it for the past week or so. It's called Cluster Duck. And
do you do it alone or do you play with friends or like what do you do?
No, it's a game where you hatch ducks. And the ducks will, as you hatch more ducks, they start to mutate. And so you get like different varieties of ducks. And then two of your mutated ducks can hatch an egg together. And then that duck will have more mutations. And you start to build this collection of like really weird, strange looking ducks. And then you can there's another feature where you can send your ducks to fight ducks from another player. And if you win, you can steal an egg from one of their ducks, which adds to your mutation collection.
What?
It's a very strange game, but I don't know. It's like it's a simple thing to pass the time. I'd like whenever I have like I'm pooping or something, I'll like pull up my game and just like hatch some eggs and fight some ducks, and I don't know. It's a good time killer.
Wait, so like, does the game keep going?
What do you mean?
Or like, do you have to start a new game every time you open it, or is it like a
No.
save?
It saves your progress.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you this: how many hours have you put into the game?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't even think it tracks that. I probably play, probably like 20, 30 minutes a day. It's not a long thing. It's just like open it, play for a few minutes, close it, and then later in the day I'll open it and play for another few minutes.
So is it one of those things where you have to like, it's like a cooldown limit, or?
Yeah, well, because the eggs take time to hatch. So you get like, there are different rarities of eggs. So you can have like common eggs usually take like 30 seconds to a minute to hatch. And then there are like rare eggs might take like 3 to 5 minutes. And there are like legendary eggs might take like 10 minutes. And then when you steal eggs from another person's duck, those ones usually take a few hours. So that's like, you just have to close out and do something else and then check the game again later.
Wait, so how do you steal eggs?
By fighting their ducks.
What the hell? What? I'm so confused. I guess I'll have to download it to try it out. Sounds good to me. Well,
So,
good.
yeah.
I like that. That's cool.
Well, with that said, I would like to let our audience know. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Tell your friends and family about us. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CashFanPod. If you want to send us a message, you can do so on either of those platforms, or you can send an email to casualfanaticpodcast@gmail.com. Links for all of those are in the description. Luca, what kind of messages can they send us?
I mean, they can send us anything from advice to what they would like to hear on the podcast, to, I mean, quite honestly, anything. If you found, a cool thing, like another cool app, like Cayman just mentioned, or, if you have your own favorite gummy bear bags that you would like to let us know of, let us know. If there's like a specific movie that you want us to go over because you like this movie a lot, or you hated it and you want to see what we think of it, or if you just want to make us miserable, you can like make us watch it.
Yeah, send us bad movies. Those are always fun.
Yeah, bad movies would be hilarious to do because then we can just dog on the movie the whole time. So yeah, anything like that, just let us know.
All right. This has been Casual Fanatic. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.